The sun beat down mercilessly over the dusty plains of Kijiji village, where the air hung thick with heat and hope alike. Amina wiped the sweat from her brow, feeling the school uniform cling to her slender frame as she trudged home. The final exam was done, an exam she believed could carve a path away from the hardship she had known since birth. Her heart still pounded from the test, a mix of fear and hope tangled in its rhythm. She clutched her worn backpack tightly, its faded fabric a quiet testament to the long road behind her. The village seemed still under the blazing sun, only the hum of cicadas filling the silence. That's when Amina saw her, Mama Zuri, the old woman known to everyone but helped by none. She shuffled along the narrow dirt path, her body bent under the weight of a heavy bundle of firewood balanced precariously on her head. Her bare feet, cracked and calloused from years of hardship, dragged slowly over the earth. The faded wrapper wrapped around her frail body barely held its place, fluttering slightly with each tired step. To any passerby, she was a shadow, a living reminder of struggle and survival, often invisible in the rush of daily life. Amina's breath caught. Without hesitation, she dropped her backpack and crossed the road in long strides. "Mama Zuri, let me help you," she called, voice trembling but steady. The old woman looked up, eyes wide and clouded with disbelief. In the village, kindness had become a currency too rare to spend freely. Strangers were met with suspicion, and helping hands were reserved only for those who might repay. For a moment, it seemed like Mama Zuri doubted the sincerity in Amina's voice. But Amina did not wait. She stepped closer, arms reaching under the heavy burden and lifting it gently off the old woman's bowed head. The firewood was heavier than anything she had ever carried. Her knees shook under the weight, her breath came in sharp gasps, but she smiled through the struggle. "I will carry this for you. Where do you live?" she asked, her voice soft but sure. Mama Zuri hesitated, eyes searching Amina's face as if peering through the years, recalling memories long buried. Finally, she pointed toward a narrow, winding path, disappearing into the thicket of trees and shadows. Amina nodded without fear and started walking, the bundle balanced precariously on her head. Their footsteps stirred the dust and the silence between them, broken only by the occasional chirp of a distant bird or the snap of dried twigs. The weight of the firewood was a constant challenge. Every few steps, Amina had to steady the load, sweat rolling down her temples and soaking into the fabric of her uniform. But she never faltered. The hardship in her muscles was nothing compared to the weight she felt in her heart when she saw the old woman struggling alone day after day, unseen and unhelped. After what felt like hours under the relentless sun, they arrived at a small hut, a fragile thing made from mud bricks and rusted tin, leaning as if weary from years of battle against wind and rain. It looked abandoned, a place the world had forgotten. Mama Zuri turned to Amina, lips trembling as she whispered, "Thank you, my child. May the ancestors bless you." Amina smiled shyly, brushing a stray curl from her forehead. "It was nothing, Mama. I'm just glad to help." But just as Amina turned to leave, a strange crackling sound filled the air, like branches snapping underfoot. She spun around. The old woman was gone. In her place stood a woman of radiant beauty, glowing like the sun itself. Her gown shimmered with an ethereal light, and her hair flowed like the purest silk in the soft breeze. The broken hut behind her transformed, morphing into a palace of gold and ivory that sparkled in the sunlight. Amina's mouth fell open, her heart pounding as disbelief and wonder tangled inside her. "You have done what many would not." The woman's voice rang clear, soft yet powerful. "You have passed a test that few could ever dream of." Amina's legs trembled. "What test?" she whispered, barely daring to believe the moment. Before the woman could answer, the earth beneath Amina rumbled fiercely. Trees shook violently. The golden palace wavered, tilting as if caught in a fierce storm. Amina cried out, reaching for something to hold on to, but the ground split open beneath her feet. She screamed as darkness swallowed her whole. When Amina's eyes fluttered open, the world had changed. She lay on a soft bed of moss deep underground in a cavern lit with glowing crystals that cast a gentle blue light over the vast chamber. The silence was thick, pierced only by the distant drip of water. Amina hugged her knees, heart hammering wildly, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. Then slow, heavy footsteps echoed from the shadows. Fear gripped her as a figure stepped forward, tall, strong, clad in ancient armor that gleamed dimly. His face was hidden behind a golden helmet, and he held a long staff that sparkled like the stars themselves. "You have entered the chamber of trials," he said in a deep voice that seemed to shake the cavern walls. "I didn't mean to," Amina said quickly. "I was only helping Mama Zuri. I don't know how I got here." The armored man tilted his head, studying her as if she were a puzzle to solve. "You helped without expecting anything in return," he said. "Few humans do that. You have been chosen." "Chosen for what?" Amina's voice shook. He pointed to a narrow path twisting deeper into the cave. "You must complete 3 tasks. Only then will you understand the reward that awaits." Amina's heart sank. She had wanted only to go home, to tell her mother she had finished her exams, maybe to celebrate a little. Now she faced trials she could never have imagined. "If I refuse?" she asked softly. The man's voice darkened. "To refuse is to lose not only your way home, but yourself." Amina's breath caught. She had no choice but to face whatever lay ahead. With shaking legs, she stood. "What is the first task?" The man stepped aside, revealing a narrow wooden bridge over a swirling dark river. "Cross the river of truth," he said. Amina took a deep breath and stepped forward. Amina's heart pounded as she stepped onto the narrow wooden bridge. The planks creaked under her feet, each step echoing in the stillness of the cavern. Below her, the river of truth churned, its dark waters alive with shifting faces, those of her classmates, neighbors, even teachers, whispering her deepest fears and doubts. The river wasn't just water, it was a mirror of her soul's darkest corners. "You're not good enough," the voices hissed. "You'll never leave this village. Nobody will ever care about you." Amina's hands trembled as she clutched the wooden rail, tears threatening to spill. The voices grew louder, harsher, more merciless. Her legs faltered, nearly giving way to the flood of despair. But then, amid the storm of negativity, a softer, steadier voice whispered from within. "You are stronger than you know, Amina. You helped Mama Zuri when no one else would. You are kind. You are brave." The courage kindled inside her like a small flame, fragile yet unyielding. She shut her eyes tight and forced herself to take another step, then another, each one a battle won against the storm of doubt. Step by step, she crossed the bridge. The voices screamed and tried to pull her back, but she did not look back. When she reached the far side, her knees buckled and she collapsed, gasping for breath. The river behind her grew silent, as if acknowledging her victory. The armored man was waiting, nodding slowly. "You have passed the first trial," he said solemnly. A warmth blossomed in Amina's chest. Not pride, not relief, but something deeper. Hope. Before she could rest, a massive stone door rumbled open ahead, revealing a spiraling staircase descending into deeper darkness. "The second trial awaits," the man said, voice grave. Amina swallowed hard. Fear curled cold in her stomach, but she nodded. She took a last glance back at the silent river and tightened her fists. Step by step, she descended into the unknown. The air grew colder, heavier as she ventured further down. A low growl echoed from the depths, reverberating through the stone walls and into her bones. A creature awaited below, a beast of shadow and rage, chained but powerful. When she reached the cavern's floor, the beast revealed itself, a towering figure, Black and leathery-skinned, with curled horns and glowing red eyes fixed on her, its snarl shook the cavern as it lunged forward, restrained by glowing chains. The armored man's voice echoed from nowhere. "Your second trial. Tame the beast without using force." Amina's breath hitched. How could she tame such a monster? She barely knew herself. The beast roared, chains clanking as it fought for freedom. Amina stepped forward cautiously, hands raised in peace. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, voice trembling but steady. The beast snarled, but its movement slowed, confused by her calm. "I know what it means to be trapped, to be scared and alone. I helped Mama Zuri today because no one else would. Maybe you've never been helped either." The beast's growls softened into deep rumbles. It sniffed her outstretched hand, its hot breath rough on her skin. Tears stung Amina's eyes. Slowly the glowing chains snapped and dissolved like smoke. The beast bowed its great head gently to her. The cavern transformed. Walls shimmered into towering marble pillars. Floors gleamed with polished gold. The armored man appeared beside the beast, smiling beneath his helmet. "You have passed the second trial," he said warmly. A deafening roar shook the ground as a new staircase opened before Amina, descending even deeper. "The final trial awaits," the man warned. "The hardest of all." Amina clenched her fists, knees trembling but spirit strong. "I'm ready," she whispered. As she stepped toward the dark stairs, the calm beast let out a low, encouraging growl. One step at a time, she descended into the unknown. The staircase seemed endless, spiraling deeper into a darkness so complete it swallowed every flicker of light. Amina's footsteps echoed softly, her breath shallow but steady. The air grew colder still, thick with silence that pressed upon her spirit like a heavy shroud. Down, down she went, feeling as if the weight of every doubt she'd ever had was pulling her further into the abyss. At last, the steps ended, and Amina found herself standing in an open field beneath a sky so black it seemed the stars themselves had vanished. The cold bit at her skin, but her eyes were drawn forward. There, standing like a sentinel in the empty expanse, was a tall mirror framed in twisting black vines. Its glass shimmered with an eerie silver light, reflecting not just her image but something deeper, something raw. The armored man appeared again, his figure faint like a ghost. "This is the final trial," he said, voice echoing around her. "You must face your true self." Amina swallowed, stepping closer to the mirror. The glass rippled and the reflection shifted. No longer the girl she knew, but a broken, tired version of herself. Eyes filled with bitterness, her uniform torn and dirty, tears streaked down her cheeks. The mirror's voice whispered cruel words, a voice filled with the doubts Amina had tried so hard to silence. "You're nobody," it hissed. "You'll never escape this village. Nobody cares about you." The words sliced through Amina's heart. They echoed the darkest corners of her mind. The times she had felt invisible, powerless, trapped by the weight of poverty and the limits of her world. She remembered watching her mother struggle by the roadside, the nights spent reading by moonlight under a broken street lamp, the praise from teachers, overshadowed by the knowledge that university was a distant dream. Her fists clenched, nails digging into her palms, tears pricking at her eyes. The mirror's voice grew louder, more insistent. "Give up," it urged. "It's easier." The darkness around her thickened, curling like cold fingers around her heart. Her breath came ragged, the weight of hopelessness threatening to crush her. But then, like a spark in the dark, a memory surfaced. The old woman she had helped, Mama Zuri's eyes bright with gratitude despite her exhaustion. The smile Amina had forced through her sweat and pain carrying the firewood, The armored man's words echoed in her heart, steady and strong. "You are kind. You are brave." With trembling breath, Amina rose, eyes shining with a fierce determination. "No," she whispered. "I am not nobody. I am not trapped." She stepped forward, voice stronger now. "I have dreams. I have strength. Helping others is not weakness, it is my power." The mirror began to crack, splintering like a spiderweb across the glass. Light burst through the fractures, dazzling and bright. "I may not be rich, but I am rich in hope. I will not give up." With a final cry, she slammed her fists into the mirror. The glass shattered into a million shards, exploding outward in a blaze of white light that swallowed everything. When the brightness faded, Amina found herself standing in a radiant garden filled with flowers blooming in every color imaginable. The dark sky had vanished, replaced by warm sunshine and a gentle breeze. In the center stood Mama Zuri, no longer old and frail, but young and radiant, eyes sparkling like stars, wearing a flowing white gown and a golden crown. Amina stared, breathless. "You have passed all the trials," Mama Zuri said softly, stepping closer and her hand resting gently on Amina's shoulder. Words failed Amina. The woman smiled warmly, pressing a small glowing orb into her palm. It pulsed with warmth and light. "This is no ordinary gift. Because of your kindness, your courage, and your refusal to give up, your life will change forever." The ground trembled beneath them, but not with fear. This time it was power. The garden blurred into streams of light, lifting Amina's body gently upward, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. She didn't know where she was going, only that her life would never be the same again. When the whirlwind of light finally stilled, Amina found herself standing on smooth, gleaming marble beneath a vast glass ceiling. Above her, the sky was a clear, brilliant blue, and soft rays of sunlight poured through, warming her skin. Around her stretched a palace grander than anything she had ever imagined. Tall, golden pillars lined the hall. Crystal-clear rivers flowed beside marble walkways, and flowers bloomed everywhere, filling the air with a sweet, calming fragrance. At the far end of the hall, on a magnificent throne carved with intricate symbols of strength and wisdom, sat the woman who had once been Mama Zuri. Now, she shone with a light so brilliant it was almost blinding, her presence commanding and serene. Behind her stood kings, queens, and elders, dressed in brilliant colors that sparkled like jewels, their faces kind and full of approval. Amina's heart raced, a mix of awe and disbelief flooding her chest. Why had she been brought here? What was this place? The radiant woman rose from her throne and descended the marble steps gracefully. Her golden crown caught the light, scattering tiny suns across the hall as she stopped before Amina. Her voice was both gentle and strong, carrying the weight of 1,000 years of wisdom. "Amina, you have done what many could not. You have shown kindness to a stranger. You carried a burden not your own when you had every reason to turn away. You faced your fears, battled your doubts, and kept your heart pure even in the darkest moments." The kings and queens behind her nodded solemnly in agreement. "You have proven," the woman continued, "that true greatness is not measured by riches or power, but by the strength of one's heart." Amina blinked back tears, overwhelmed by the words and the presence surrounding her. The woman smiled warmly and extended her hand, revealing a small orb glowing with a soft inner light. It was no larger than a marble, yet it seemed to hold the warmth of 1,000 suns. She pressed the orb gently into Amina's palm. "This is your gift," she explained. "In your world, this will open doors you never imagined possible." Amina stared down at the orb, the gentle warmth flowing through her fingers. She wanted to ask what it meant, what doors it could open, but before words could form, the palace began to shimmer and fade. The kings and queens waved goodbye, their smiles proud and full of hope. The woman's voice echoed in Amina's ears, soft but clear. "Never forget who you are. Never stop helping others." The world turned white, and then, with a start, Amina found herself back on the dusty road of Chikiji village. The sun was setting, painting the sky in fiery oranges and golds. Beside her, the old bundle of firewood lay neatly stacked, just as it had been. For a moment, Amina thought it had all been a dream. Then she looked down, and there, glowing softly in her hand, was the orb. Tears filled her eyes. It had been real. Filled with new strength and a heart full of hope, Amina picked up her worn backpack and began the walk home. The orb pulsed gently in her pocket, a reminder that kindness, courage, and hope could truly change the world. Weeks passed since that transformative day, but the warmth of the glowing orb in Amina's pocket never faded. Every morning, as the sun rose over Kijiji village, she felt a quiet strength blossoming within her, a strength born not just of magic, but of the kindness and courage she had found in herself. One afternoon, she sat nervously inside the village's only small classroom, which doubled as a modest internet cafe. The room buzzed softly with the hum of a slow connection, and the faces around her were filled with hope and anticipation. Today was the day she would speak to the scholarship committee through a video call, a chance she had only dreamed of before. Her hands trembled slightly as she clicked "Join Meeting." The interviewer's face appeared on the screen, warm and welcoming. "Amina Najeri," the man said, flipping through her documents. "Your grades are impressive, but more than that, your community service and kindness have touched many hearts." Amina's breath caught. She listened intently as the interviewer continued. "We're pleased to inform you that you've been awarded a full scholarship to attend one of the finest universities in the country. All expenses paid." Amina's hand flew to her mouth, disbelief and joy swirling in her eyes. "You mean it?" she whispered. The interviewer smiled. "We're not only offering you a scholarship, a foundation has also chosen to support your family, lifting you all out of poverty." Tears streamed down Amina's cheeks. The orb in her pocket pulsed warmly, as if celebrating with her. It all began with a simple act of kindness, helping an old woman carry her firewood on a hot afternoon. Now, her life and the lives of those she loved were forever changed. As Amina stepped outside the classroom that evening, the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting the village in a golden glow. Her footsteps were lighter, her spirit unburdened. The dusty road stretched ahead, but her dreams were bigger than ever before. She understood now. Kindness is never lost. It circles back, lighting the way home. The days that followed were a whirlwind of change for Amina and her family. Word spread quickly through Kijiji village about the young girl who had been granted a full scholarship, and the community's pride swelled like the rains that once nourished their cracked earth. Neighbors came to offer congratulations, their smiles warm and their voices filled with hope. For the first time in years, Amina's mother allowed herself to dream, not just for her daughter, but for their entire family. Yet, amid the celebration, Amina remained grounded. She remembered the trials she had faced in that mysterious chamber deep beneath the earth, the whispers of doubt on the river, the fierce beast tamed by kindness, and the shattering reflection of her own fears. Each lesson had carved strength into her soul, like the ancient baobab trees that stood firm against the wind. With the glowing orb tucked safely in her pocket, she began preparing for the journey ahead, a journey that would carry her beyond the borders of the village, beyond the familiar fields and dusty roads, to a world she had only glimpsed in books and dreams. But no matter how far she would go, Amina knew the heart of Kijiji would always beat within her. She carried not only her hopes, but the spirit of her people, the resilience forged in hardship, the kindness that sparked change, and the courage to face the unknown. One evening, as the village gathered around the fire under a sky thick with stars, Amina stood before her friends and family. Her voice was steady as she spoke of dreams and determination, of giving back and lifting others as she climbed. "The road will not always be easy," she told them, "but we must walk it with open hearts. When we help one another, we light a fire that darkness cannot extinguish." Her words hung in the air, a promise and a blessing. And as the flames flickered and danced, Amina felt the warmth of a future bright with possibility, one she would build not alone, but with the strength of a community bound by kindness and hope. The orb in her hand glowed softly, a beacon guiding her onward. The morning of her departure arrived wrapped in a soft golden light that spilled gently over Kijiji village. Amina stood at the edge of the dusty road, her worn backpack slung over one shoulder, and the glowing orb resting in the palm of her hand. Around her the village gathered, friends, family, elders, each face shining with pride and hope, but tinged with the bittersweet ache of farewell. Her mother stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "Remember, Amina, no matter where life takes you, you carry our hearts with you. Stay kind, stay brave." Amina nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. The journey ahead was vast and uncertain, a path few in her village had ever walked. But inside her chest, the fire of courage burned steady, a flame fueled by every trial she had endured and every act of kindness she had given. As the first wheels of the bus rumbled to life, she glanced back once more at the faces she loved. The sun hung low, casting long shadows, as if the day itself was reluctant to let her go. The road stretched out before her, unknown, winding, and full of promise. At the city university, Amina was a stranger in a sea of new faces and unfamiliar sounds. The halls buzzed with energy, the air thick with ambition and dreams as diverse as the students themselves. There were moments when doubt crept back, whispers of loneliness and fear. But she clutched the orb tightly, its warmth a steady reminder of her strength. She remembered the lessons of the chamber, to face fear without turning away, to meet the wild beast with kindness, and to look in the mirror with courage and hope. Day by day, she carved her place among the scholars, her determination shining brighter than the brightest lecture hall lights. Professors noticed her curiosity, classmates admired her resilience, and slowly, Amina's story became one of inspiration. Back in Kijiji, news of her success spread like wildfire. Young children looked up to her as a beacon of possibility. Mothers whispered her name with reverence. The village that once seemed trapped in time now pulsed with renewed life. And through it all, Amina never forgot the old woman who started it all. The kindness that set her on this path, the trials that shaped her, and the heart that refused to give up. One quiet evening, as the campus settled into twilight, Amina stood beneath the stars, the orb glowing softly in her hand. She whispered a promise to herself and to those she carried in her heart. "I will return, and when I do, I will bring hope to those who need it most." For Amina knew this journey was not just hers alone. It was the story of every dreamer who dared to believe that kindness could change the world. Years flowed by like the gentle river that wound through Kijiji village, steady, patient, and full of quiet strength. Amina had grown beyond the girl who once carried firewood for Mama Zuri, now blossomed into a woman shaped by knowledge, courage, and a heart as vast as the savannah. University life had been a journey of discovery and challenge. There were nights when loneliness wrapped around her like a cold blanket, and moments when the weight of expectation felt unbearable. Yet through every trial, the glowing orb nestled close to her heart was a constant reminder, a beacon of the kindness that first sparked her journey and the strength she carried within. Graduation day arrived with the sun pouring gold over the bustling city. Amina stood among her peers, the tassel on her cap fluttering in the breeze. She thought of Kijiji, the dusty roads, the faces who believed in her, the old woman who had unknowingly set fate in motion. But Amina's journey was far from over. With diploma in hand and a spirit unbroken, she returned home, not just as a scholar, but as a beacon of hope. The village welcomed her with open arms. Children gathered to hear her stories, mothers smiled with pride, and elders spoke of the young girl who had dared to dream. Yet Amina knew true change required more than words. She used her education to build, a school where children could learn without fear, a well to bring clean water to thirsty mouths, and programs to teach the power of kindness and courage. The glowing orb, once a mysterious gift, became a symbol, a light that reminded everyone that greatness lies not in wealth, but in the strength of one's heart and the courage to help others. One evening, as the sun set over golden fields, Amina stood beneath the ancient baobab tree, the village's heart and witness to generations. She placed the orb in the tree's hollow, where it pulsed softly, sending ripples of light into the earth. "This is for all of us," she whispered, "for every struggle, every kindness, every hope." The village thrived, woven together by threads of compassion and resilience. And though the world outside was vast and often harsh, within Kijiji, a story lived on, a story of a girl who faced darkness and found light, who taught a village that kindness always finds its way back home. And in that truth, they all found strength.